and let the government also come together, sit down with them to get out of this worry in their heart. Yeah, that is why they put their demands. So for the second question about the agreement, of course, when we read this resettlement action plan, there should be one slot there where the Penang and the government will sign agreement. But this, according, based on our record, based on our experience, they told us that no such thing happened. Yeah, we don't know what happened. Maybe that will done at their without their knowledge. This, I mean, the majority of the Penang. Yeah, whether it's done or not. So that's why we put it this way. If the government really honest to develop, to help them, and to really give what the government want to give them, so at least we request the government of Sarawak to give them a copy of that documents to the Tuan Rumah, but which is not happen at this moment. So we consider there is no agreement. Yeah, and the government simply push and force what they feel good for them, which is not good for the Penang themselves when see all this, what is happening now. Okay, there is no agreement.
Okay, dua soalan. This lady first.
Just want to ask what is the next step over the households or families? What is the next step? Today you went to Parliament. Are you going to continue on with your blockade, or are you even going to sue the companies or go to court? What's the next step?
Yeah, we went to Parliament today, and we went also to Bukit Aman to send this memorandum. So we managed to have a short meeting with the police at the IDP's office, but the IDP was not there. Then we informed that the Penang tell what is really happened at the ground to them. So we went to Parliament also to give the memorandum of the Penang. So which is I sorted it just now, about 10 of their demands. Yeah, then it's nothing material at this moment. We will discuss about that. Maybe it's another option to put legal into the legal battle of this, so that we seek the courts to interfere and whether the compensation is adequate for them or not. So this is another option. We get the Penang's instruction on that later. Yeah.
Okay, Andrew.
Saya ada dua soalan. Soalan pertama, adakah kaum Penang dibiarkan menghadapi masalah ini secara sendiri, atau adakah ada sokongan gabungan daripada kaum orang asal yang lain di Sarawak yang mungkin jadi satu persetujuan untuk menghadapi masalah ini secara kooperatif lah. Tidak ada tolong-menolong untuk menghadapi masalah itu. Soalan pertama. Soalan kedua saya adalah soalan ulang dari Lucky Linda. Saya fikir soalannya tidak soal dengan baik. Soalannya adalah tentang keganasan terhadap kaum wanita dan kaum kanak-kanak. Adakah oleh kerana apa yang berlaku di kawasan Penang sekarang, kaum wanita dan kaum kanak-kanak itu lebih terancam oleh kemungkinan keganasan terhadap kaum wanita dan kaum kanak-kanak? Itu soalan.
Okay, saya rasa jadi behind politik.
Soalan saya untuk sama ada Layu ataupun Jin mungkin boleh menjawab. Saya tidak pernah pergi ke kampung yang dimaksudkan di sini. Jadi mungkin sekiranya layu atau jin boleh menceritakan sedikit tentang kehidupan mereka dari pagi hingga malam, contohnya lah, daripada bangun hingga tidur, mungkin ia boleh memberi satu gambaran yang lebih baik, dan saya boleh bayangkan apa impak pembanjiran dan pembuatan empangan dan sebagainya mungkin boleh memberi impak terhadap kehidupan tersebut. So mungkin beritahu apa yang berlaku dalam satu hari contohnya, dan apa yang boleh menjadi memberi kesan terhadap apa yang awak lakukan setiap hari.
Okey, terima kasih banyak. Okey, sekarang untuk soalan pertama ya, adakah sokongan dari orang asal lain dalam isu Penan ini? Saya minta Abang Suri jawab. Dua soalan.
Ya, yang pertama tadi berkaitan dengan adakah kerjasama dari orang asal yang lain. Jadi sebagai guam yang terlibat dalam mempertahankan tanah orang asal ini, memang ada kerjasama, cuma karena faktor geografi yang jauh, kalau dia dekat ada yang datang, dan ada juga yang memberi sumbangan. Ya, ada kerjasama. Contohnya di Barang ada orang asal yang menderma dengan RM500 untuk beli groceries ataupun makanan dari beras. Ada kerjasama. Dan kalau pergi kot ada juga yang datang ramai-ramai. Jadi setakat yang dekat lah ya, yang hampir dengan kawasan itu. Bagi orang Penan memang ada juga orang asal yang menderma, dan dari Belaga sendiri ada buat collection, setakat yang mampu mereka bagi. Dan I have been doing these court cases involve all the native, all over Sarawak. Then actually it is regarding land, native customary right land. So it affect by this plantation and also forest, LPF, License for Planted Forest, and this dam. So all affect native customary rights. So there is kerjasama, tetapi karena faktor geografi itu yang menyebabkan mereka tidak kelihatan berkumpul bersama. Ya, tapi itulah pada itu the government is putting their modus operandi divide and rule. Yeah, that's why if there is a problem, they will feed some of them. The government feed some of them, and some of this community kenyang. Jadi mereka akan cakap, oh jangan lawan. This is happen everywhere in Sarawak. So they will feed, like just now I mentioned about the blockade 3 times already. So the second one, that leaders already lost, mahanyut mereka. And the second time, and another leaders lost. Yang lama bertahan sampai ini, this new leaders yang leaders, dan ada juga tua kampung yang masih bertahan. We salute this tua kampung yang di atas. They are still the majority people of the Penan. So that is how the government doing. They are feeding small number of them to say that Penan accept this moving them. That is not true also, yeah. That is the modus operandi the government doing, divide and rule, and use some and give some token to one or two people from this native everywhere, in Sarawak.
Okey, thank you. Okey, untuk soalan yang kedua dari Andrew tadi berkenaan dengan apakah situasi sekarang, ancaman kehidupan terhadap kaum perempuan dan kanak-kanak itu lebih berbanding sebelum ini. Bahaya, kesusahannya, adakah sekarang lebih teruk berbanding dulu? Apakah ancaman-ancaman itu?
Kalau dulu, kalau bangun pagi, kena kami di hutan. Satunya anak lapar, kena kami ada sagu. Saya bikin linun untuk satunya anak makan. Kalau tidak ada sayur, Saya punya laki pergi ambil upah dekat, tidak jauh. Lebih dari itu, kalau saya mau pancing, tidak jauh saya pergi pancing dapat ikan, saya punya anak makan. Sudah itu ada kami dulu orang kaya yang pergi jual sama kami. Tidak macam sekarang kami kerja company, macam orang company sekarang. Kalau ada ubi macam dulu rotan itu ada, saya bikin ajat kah, bikin tika kah, untuk saya beli barang masing-masing untuk saya punya anak. Gitu juga saya punya laki bikin barang kah, untuk saya beli saja. Tapi sekarang itu yang lebih susah, sebab rotan itu tidak ada. Sebab kayu yang untuk saya punya laki buat parang itu pun tidak ada sekarang. Habis. Ikan itu pun susah cari. Gitu juga patuk itu tidak ada sekarang. Itu yang lebih susah. Itu yang saya risau.
Bagaimana dengan keadaan kanak-kanak? Macam Melayu tadi cerita dengan saya, keadaan kanak-kanak, kesihatan mereka lebih teruklah sekarang berbanding dengan dulu. So apakah maksud saya apakah kesakitan atau jenis penyakit yang sedang dihadapi oleh kanak-kanak sekarang di kawasan Bloket dulu?
Sebab sekarang dulu kami ini yang kesik dulu. Kami punya mama, kami punya bapak yang jaga, bukan masa mana orang jaga kami. Kami tidak pernah sakit. Sekarang tepat kami Bloket sana berapa lama sudah, dekat 3 bulan ini. Kami punya anak sakit perut, kembung dia punya perut, ada keluar cacing, gatal, demam panas, sebab dia selalu kena hujan, kena panas. Itu yang penyakit sekarang. Dulu tidak ada.
Okey, satu lagi soalan. Mungkin lebih kurang juga, tapi ini lebih kepada apakah macam kaum perempuan sekarang buat dari pagi sampai ke petang dalam, sebab dulu di hutan belantara kamu boleh masuk hutan cari bahan-bahan sumber untuk anyaman dan sebagainya. Tapi sekarang kamu berada di Bloket, ya. So apakah aktiviti yang kamu, macam apa yang dapat perempuan lakukan dari pagi sampai ke malam? Bagaimana kamu jalani kehidupan?
Tidak ada. Berapa kali saya mau pergi pancing tidak dapat. Saya mau cari sayur pun hutan tidak ada.
So duduk sajalah.
Duduk saja.
Sudah menjawab soalan kamu? Atau
Coba cerita dulu kehidupan yang dulu yang hidup senang bergantung pada hutan. Apa yang kamu buat dari pagi sampai malam lah, yang menyebabkan kamu boleh hidup daripada hutan itu. Kamu cerita apa yang perempuan pernah buat, ya, kehidupan satu pagi atau mungkin kalau dapat 1 minggu ke apa buat. Coba cerita yang menyebabkan kamu boleh hidup dari hutan.
Karena dulu kalau kami perempuan ini biasa kami pergi pancing dari pagi sampai tengah hari. Kami dapat ikan. Ada juga macam upah lalis itu dapat juga kami perempuan dapat. Ada juga macam upah dirayan itu. Tapi kalau upah patuk tu kami perempuan tidak dapat ambil. Banyak sayur macam sayur kami di hutan yang ada bau-bau tu, itu yang kami cari dulu. Tapi senang kami cari dulu itu. Masa belum company, tidak susah kami cari. Kalau masa kami rapal, kami pergi cari, kami dapat. Laki itu lain kerja orang laki. Dia itu habis kayu api, habis upah patuk, ada kerja yang jauh-jauh tu orang laki yang cari itu. Tapi perempuan ini kerja pancing bikin linu, macam kami pernah bikin sagu tu dalam periuk tu, itu yang kami makan dulu. Tapi sekarang susah, tidak dapat cari barang itu sekarang, habis semua. Banyak macam-macam sayur yang kami makan di hutan dulu, sekarang sudah tidak ada.
Saya rasa cukuplah tu. Okey, satu lagi soalan.
Saya juri daripada Bersama Masyarakat Selangor dan Jaya. Banyak terselipik dalam isu-isu forced eviction for the urban poor. Saya nak bawa balik perbincangan malam ini kepada women and children, because a lot of things have been thought about the technical part. And I want to put back what Mr. Peter has said, that the point of the indigenous people is not about the land. It is about their life. It is about their culture. It is about their custom, their language. Alright. So I would like to bring that again to the people of Moron and all other indigenous people. How could you make and empower more of the women to play a bigger role and to stand in front? Because when there is a change in their livelihood, women are being affected the most, because they are the ones who spend almost the entire time in that particular house, in that particular piece of land. While the men, majority, if not all, they are breadwinner of the family. They are actually outside the area. Alright? Probably for the indigenous people, they spend more time in the wood trying to look for resources to bring home. So they don't spend so much time in that area, in the house, in the land itself. So when there is a change to a new area, women are the ones being most impacted with this kind of change. And that's when you can see that they are very emotional. And when it comes to fighting for their rights, for the land to remain there, I think they are able to give a more impactful, they are more impactful in terms of getting the attention from outside, because they are the ones who are able to relate to you how this whole thing affects the entire livelihood of the people. While the men were more onto like, it's just my right, it's my place, and we just want it. But they didn't know actually how it impacts the entire family back then. So I would like to know for our friend over here, how would you empower the women to play a bigger role in this fight?
Kita ada fikir apa jawapan ataupun macam mana lelaki ni nak bagi empower ataupun kemahiran ataupun kepandaian kepada perempuan kalau di tempat baru ni, apa agaknya kamu orang punya pikiran sekarang? Ada dari kamu yang boleh fikir itu untuk perempuan penani ini, ataupun agaknya ya macam mana? Jadi itulah yang dilema kita sekarang. Mungkin kerajaan pun fikir perkara yang sama. Jadi mungkin kita di sini sudah ada experience. Kita tak ada jawapan yang pasti untuk perkara itu ya. Tapi kita memang education itulah yang paling penting lah. Jadi bila education itu, sebab di tempat mereka in their own place no school, ya banyak drop dalam sekolah. Jadi I think if you have that experience from here, I think.
It's not about education over here. It's about empowering the women, giving them a platform to make their voice being heard, rather than standing behind the man and let the man do the talking. It's nothing to do with education.
Yeah, that's why we immediately bring women here to facilitate them to voice what is in their heart, and not only just sitting behind. That's why we yeah.
Maybe answer that. There is one blockade, and I just received an invitation from them for the 28th of this month. They have been that is the 1 year anniversary. They have been doing blockade for 1 year now. This is about plantation, oil palm plantation, which encroach into the native customary land. And the beauty about this blockade, this is empowerment is something that happened naturally. It's not intentional. It's not forcing upon the people. What happened here? They have one leader who did a lot of thinking and all that. They managed to bring all these people together, and then they're very, very good in this. And then when the police came, they asked, "Who is your leader?" "We don't have any particular leader. All of us are leaders." And so the police found it very hard to arrest them, and they did all these things that I found really amazing. Something that I myself wouldn't do. Right in front, when the police came, the women lined up in front there. The women did the talking, and the men would be behind there supporting them. Get ready for this. So one of these women keep on touching the police. He was touching the police like this, and then the police said, apa kamu sentuh-sentuh saya? Saya salah sentuh kan? And then what did she do? She got him. The police shouted and ran away. So this is a very good thing. It is something that happened naturally. It's not something that we force upon people. So I don't know whether that answers your question or not, but I can see that the women play their part in what happened here. They are not totally without any function. They do play their part, but
I do agree that women can play a part. That is one of the strategies that we also use when we put women to the front, right? Because when you deal with the enforcement, they all make up of men. When you put a man in front, that will be the clash of the flag. But what I want to see is that the indigenous women are also given the same platform together with the men in all decision making, because they are the one who will be affected the most in this kind of change.
that is in our community. I'm a Kenyan. I'm indigenous, as much as the Penan are. This is something that we share. It doesn't mean that all the decision making is done by the men or no the talking. In fact, the women talk more than the men. So it's something natural. It's not something that we force upon them. It's everything about it. I think I leave this to the chairman. You want to ask me or?
I just want to add something because I'm also indigenous from Sabah. So currently, my groups part of one of the advocacy area then, and then I don't think so. The indigenous women really like to act behind the door because the leader of the Keduanian task force is the girls. Diana and Mary Gallos is very active involved in this task force anti-Kerendam. So I couldn't see that this woman is very lack of education, no awareness, something like that. But they're very openly and aware of what's happening to them. So it's my experience. And then I think all of the women in the
Actually, I'm in total agreement with you. In this difficult time, there is no need to segregate whether women should be in front or whether women should be empowered to do the decision making. Well, our Penan folks have traveled all the way here. I think their purpose, or rather their target, has not been met. They are here for a solution, for a support, which I think until this moment, nothing has been mentioned. Now, but what I'm more concerned is this blockage. How long are you going to hold this blockage? And during this time,
who is going to support them? Now, mind you, these people can't go to the forest, they can't go fishing anymore, there's no food, no water, let alone education. Education and medication at this moment for them, I think, is a luxury. Okay. Now, who is going to support them? From where the resources is going to pour in? This is something which I'm more concerned. And if they can't fend for themselves, who else? We are going to just sit here and talk till the cows come home, and yet nothing has been done. So actually, I would like to throw this question to the floor, see whether we can come up with something that is beneficial to them at this moment. Okay, thank you very much.
So, berkenaan dengan soalan ya. So, ada apa-apa cadangan dari kawan-kawan? Apa yang patut kita buat sekarang? Sebab keadaan mereka kritikal dan kita tidak tahu berapa lama mereka akan ada di sana dan untuk mempertahankan mereka punya hak asasi di sana, tanah adat mereka dan sebagainya. So, apa yang kita kena fikir sekarang? Ada apa-apa cadangan?
You heard it, I think you heard it mentioned earlier. One of the immediate need that we have at the moment at Murum is medical. Yeah, they're complaining about diarrhea, complaining about fever and all that. So one of our NGO from Sarawak, he has written a letter to the medical department because some doctors in Sarawak have volunteered to go and try to help them. So he wrote to the medical department, but the request was turned down. So I don't know, maybe some of you have the power to influence them, to send some medical people there to help these people. If you can't get it from the government, maybe you can arrange for private doctors or nurses to go there. So that is one immediate need, and that we really find that we are lost land. We can't do anything from Seth Rivers and my friends in the NGOs need help.
So, anything, ada apa-apa lagi cadangan? Mungkin sebab kita akan berhenti mungkin jam 10, 10.15 macam itu. Saya nak bagi peluang kepada adik kita di sana untuk, sebab dah lama dia angkat tangan untuk raise question. Yes?
Good evening. I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity. I just want to share with everybody that the plights of the Fernand. When I was a student many years ago in the 80s, it was the first time the Fernands came to Peninsula to fight against the Baku Dam, and the tragedy of the community at that time until today is being repeated. So my question is, I know Abu, you're doing a lot of good work, right? And a lot of the few lawyers that have gone through the same process have gone through it many times over. My question is whether or not the international community can be engaged in any way to mobilize the support at the international arena, because we know at the local level, at the national level, somehow the ears are deaf. Whatever plight that has been raised, the media is not giving that much publicity. But the advantage today is that social media is freely available and everybody can do their own publicity in that sense. So one of the suggestions, that was one question in terms of the international community. The other suggestion is perhaps to engage each and everyone here to start mobilizing. And if you can create a fund, a tabung, whereby online contribution can be poured in, that will facilitate a lot of assistance.
Okay, thank you for the question. of course we need support from every one of concerned people that want to help the Penan. So if we see the matter now as it is, as if it is cannot be settled, but of course I mentioned just now there will be an option to have a legal battle on this. So we ask the court to intervene, then how much the court will favor them on. Of course, we are confident that there should have been, the court should be the one that can settle this. So in that case, of course, we have to put down all their traditions and the way of life they have told us here, and of course we will also investigate or do some research according to the way of life and put it into the court to decide. So that's one thing that we have to do. So of course that will take us to do this total loss of their life and the ancestral lands and many things that will compare to what the government want to give them. So we want to put it. So by that things, it will go to maybe federal court to finalize all this problem. Yeah, especially the Penan. So in that case, of course, we need support in terms of the logistic and in terms of fees for the court. Yeah, that may be one thing that we can do. Of course, end of the day, we also need concerned government, which is the government is not now, maybe the future government, we don't know. So that is also something that we have to bear in mind. And change of government, we don't know, you know? Okay, because all those lawyers that defend the native land, it is coincidentally we are from Bikiaro, DAP or Pakatan Rakyat. So we have a good policy which is respect the decision of the court. Now the decision of the court is their territorial domain of the native customary right, NCR. But the current policy not respected. That's why they consider the Penan don't have any rights over the land, so which is of which we not agree with. So we abide the decision of the court, the highest court of the land. Federal court say the territorial domain of the native customary right land. That is to be, but the current government is not respect that decision. So that's why we put it on record. Maybe we get that option to file it in the court. We will file that legal battle in this few times to come. Secepat mungkin, yeah. That will be another way to. So you can support us on that. Thank you.
Okey, terima kasih Abu Sui. Saya rasa kita sudah sampai ke penghujung forum sembang ini. Nampaknya kita begitu tersentuh dengan mereka punya perkongsian. Sebelum kita menamatkan, saya ingin kongsikan sedikit perkara lah. Mungkin anda pernah dengar yang pihak Suhakam menjalankan pendengaran awam berkenaan dengan isu hak tanah adat orang asal di seluruh Semenanjung. Dan Suhakam telah habis pendengaran awam mereka, pendengaran awam mereka, dan mereka telah mengeluarkan report di mana di dalamnya terkandung ada 18 syur. Dr. Colin Nicholas juga terlibat dalam proses ini. Dan setelah siap, sepatutnya report ini harus diberi kepada Parlimen untuk dibahas dan sebagainya. Tetapi nampaknya tidak dibenarkan hantar ke Parlimen. So kerajaan set up satu task force untuk mengkaji 18 SOR ini, adakah ianya boleh dilaksanakan atau tidak, yang mana satu harus dilaksanakan dan sebagainya. Tetapi kelihatannya juga ia seperti kurang yakin terhadap report yang keluar. So sekarang ini kita ada perwakilan dalam task force ini sebanyak 7 orang bagi pihak orang asal. Ada perwakilan dari Sarawak, perwakilan dari kerajaan dan komuniti iaitu saudara Mak Bujar, dan kita ada perwakilan dari Sabah iaitu Puan Jenila Simbang, dan juga ada satu juga perwakilan dari kerajaan, dan saya juga saudara Majid, dan juga 2 wakil dari Majlis Peguam, saudara Andrew Khoo dengan Dr. Yogeswaran juga duduk di dalam task force ini. So setakat ini kita telah 2 hari lepas kita adakan task force pergi buat lawatan ke Kelantan, berjumpa dengan komuniti untuk mendengar sekali lagi dari komuniti apakah benar isu yang mereka utarakan dalam report ini, report Suhakan. So kita sudah dengar, task force nampaknya kita punya pengurusi Datuk Muhammad Tam merasakan ia benar, dan sekarang kita akan pergi berjumpa dengan komuniti di Sarawak dan Sabah. So tarikh dia belum tetap lagi, tapi Sabah Disember, mungkin Sarawak juga hujung, tidak tahu lah, tapi mungkin awal Januari. So kita harap ada perwakilan juga dari komuniti Padang yang akan hadir dan mengambil kesempatan untuk meluahkan perasaan mereka sekali lagi lah di situ. Kita tidak pasti bahawa adakah report yang akan dikeluarkan oleh task force ini nanti akan diterima pakai oleh kerajaan. Kita tidak pasti, mungkin ini hanya permainan mereka saja, tetapi kita mengambil peluang untuk atau mengambil kesempatan lah untuk menceritakan keadaan sebenar yang kita hadapi pada sesi dialog yang akan berlaku lah. Okey, so berbalik kepada